For right now, we're going to skip over space, and we're going to go to color, and we are going to venture into the land of color. Finally, no more black and white. You're going to need your colored pencils. I would pull them all out, and you're only going to need a few. You need to find your red, let's see, an orange, yellow, kind of a medium green. It's kind of a medium green, a medium blue, and a violet. So you're gonna need those 6 colors. And we're just gonna work on this side, the color page. This side we'll work on later next semester when we start to paint. So we're not gonna get into that just yet, but we are gonna start here learning about color in the color wheel. So the color wheel is like a rainbow in a circle. And it's important to know because when you're mixing colors, you need to understand how mixing works. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a color wheel, and we're gonna talk about some of this terminology as we go. So in the very top circle, take your red, and I want you to fill in the circle. Red is one of the primary colors. Okay, so if you look down here, it says primary. You cannot create a primary color. And this you'll understand more when we get to paint. You can't create a primary color, but the 3 primaries create all the other colors. Okay, so we're gonna fill this one in with red. And down here, underneath primary, I want you to just make a little red circle so that we know that is a primary color, okay? And up here, all of the circles are gonna be our primaries. So in this circle, I'm going to fill that in blue. And down here, make a little blue circle, because that is one of the primaries. And then over here in the final circle, we've got yellow. And that's the yellow that says 307. Okay, so fill that in. And down here. So once we have these colors, they make all the other colors. So when you mix red and yellow, you get orange. Okay, and orange is going to be a secondary. When you mix 2 primaries together, you get a secondary color. So down here, underneath secondary, I'm gonna make a little orange dot, okay? When you mix blue and yellow, you get green. Now make sure you're putting these primaries in between, or these secondaries in between the 2 primaries that are being mixed. So orange goes in between red and yellow, green goes in between blue and yellow. And then over here, when you mix blue and red, you get violet. Okay, and again down here, I'm gonna, oh, I forgot to put my little green dot. Okay, and I'm gonna put a violet dot. So I've got my primaries and my secondaries. Then, when you mix a primary and a secondary, you get a tertiary. Or if you look down here, it says tertiary or intermediate, same thing. So here, this is when you mix colors, and we'll be blending colors together. So when you're doing that with color pencil, what you want to do, like let's just say we're going to mix the yellow and the orange, you want to start with your lighter color first. The lighter color is going to go underneath, and then we'll lightly put the darker color on top. If you do it the other way around and you get that orange in that paper, it's going to be too hard for the yellow to lighten it. It's just not going to work. So you want to start light. So here, I'm going to fill that in yellow, and then I'm very lightly going to go over the top with an orange. Okay. So the other thing that you need to know about the tertiary or the intermediate color is when you name it, you say the primary first and the secondary second. It only makes sense. So this is going to be a yellow orange. And I'm gonna write that down here. So we've got, and I'll just pick one of your pencils. Yellow, orange. That's one, okay. Then up here, when we're mixing our orange and our red, orange is a little bit lighter, so I'm gonna start with the orange first and kind of lay that down. Then I'm gonna grab my red and very lightly go over the top. And this time we're gonna say the primary first and the secondary second. So that's gonna be red, orange right there. So I'm gonna fill that in, red, orange. Okay. Now, these two are very similar in value, but since I've got my red already in my hand, I'm going to lightly fill that in, red first. Then I'm gonna find my violet and go over the top of that to blend. So that's gonna be a red violet, okay? I'm gonna write that in here, red violet. Okay, then moving right along. These are also very similar, but to me, it looks like this is a little bit lighter, so I'm gonna start with my violet color. Fill that in lightly. Then I'm gonna go over it with my blue to get a blue violet. So let's write that down here. Blue hyphen violet. Okay, we've got two more. I think the green looks a little lighter than the blue, so I'm gonna start lightly with the green. Go over the top of that with the blue lightly. Okay, for maybe a little bit more. I'm trying to find kind of a medium color that looks like it goes in between the two. Sometimes I gotta press down a little bit more to get another color on there. Okay, maybe a little bit more. Okay, so that's gonna be blue hyphen green. And then the last one, yellow is definitely the lighter, so we'll start with yellow and very lightly go over the top with the green, the darker color. Okay. And then finally we have yellow, green. All right, so we have our primaries, our secondaries, and our tertiaries. Next, and this is one of the great things about the color wheel, when you have it lined up like we have it here, you can easily see colors that are as opposite as they can get are going to be across from each other. These colors that are across from each other are called, and I'm kind of skipping a little bit, I'm skipping analogous. I started talking about complementary. Complementary colors, and pick any color you want. It really doesn't matter. But complementary colors are colors that are across from each other. Okay. So when you look at this, red is across from green. Those are complementary colors. Violet is across from yellow, complementary colors. Blue and orange are across from each other. You could get even more into this and say yellow green is across from a red violet. Those are complementary colors if they're across from each other. When you use complementary colors, you're using contrast, because again, they're very different from each other. They can't be any more different than the one that is across from it. So if I had here a yellow sign and I wanted to put colored lettering on it and really make it stand out, violet's going to stand out the most. So complementary colors are colors that are across from each other. Then we've got analogous, and think of analogous like an analogy, how two things are alike. You know, you can say, kitten is to cat as puppy is to dog. That is an analogy. You're comparing things, how they're similar. Same with color. Analogous colors are going to be your colors that are next to each other. Okay, so that would be yellow and yellow green. They're analogous. Red and red, orange and orange. They're all right next to each other. They're analogous. Blue, blue, green, and green together. Those are analogous colors. And they blend together very well. So what we're going to do right underneath analogous, pick two of your colors, a primary and a secondary, that are next to each other. And you can really pick any. I'm going to go ahead and pick yellow and green. Underneath analogous, what I'm going to do is I'm going to blend. Remember, we're starting with the lightest color first. So I can barely see that. I'm pressing down really hard because yellow is so light. And I'm just making a block of color that is yellow. Then I'm going to take my green, and over here I'm going to start by pressing down kind of hard. But then once I hit that yellow that I just made, I'm going to lighten up a little bit. And I'm not going to press down as hard. And I'm going to keep getting lighter and lighter until that color blends right in with the yellow. These are analogous colors. Okay, yellow to yellow, green to green. I'm going to go back over it with the yellow and see if I can blend that a little bit more. Okay, so those are analogous colors. Underneath that, remember, we just went over complementary. Those are colors that are across from each other. And one way to remember what those are is to say that Auburn, which is blue and orange, played LSU, which is violet and yellow, at Christmas, which is green and red. So if you remember, Auburn played LSU at Christmas. Those are your basic complementary colors. All right, now we've got tint. And a tint is a color. I'm going to go back to, I guess, my blue, since I wrote most of mine in blue. Tint is a color plus white. So you're getting lighter. One way to do that is to start pressing down kind of hard, and as you keep going, lighten up, lighten up, lighten up, lighten up. And what's happening is you have the white of the paper showing through some of that blue. I could grab my white and start over here just like I did with the other color. This time I'm using white to kind of rub that down into the paper so it looks a little bit more solid. Okay, so that's a tint from a color adding white. Then you have a shade, and this is going to be a color plus black, so it's getting darker. I'm going to do the same thing over here but with blue and black. So I'm starting out pressing down, lightening up, light, light, light. Then I'm going to come back with my black over here. I'm going to press down kind of hard, and then as I hit the blue, I'm going to lighten up a little bit. I'm going to go back with my blue again to help blend that together. Okay, so that's going to be a shade. And then tone is going to be a little bit tricky to do with colored pencil. It's easier to do with paint, but tone is going to be a color plus black and white. Okay, so what we're going to try to do here is, just like we did before, start out with blue. Okay, now I'm starting to lighten up a little bit. Okay, Then I'm gonna go with white since it's lighter. Remember, you want to start light and slowly get darker with your colored pencil. So I'm really pressing down hard here. Okay. Now I can lightly go over it with black. You know, it's kind of a muted color, having a tone. Press down. And actually, we could go ahead and use gray because it's, you know, white and black makes gray. So that blends a little bit better. Let me go back with my blue. So this is a tone. Okay.